Yo, what's going on, guys? Hopefully you're having a great weekend so far. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for stopping by to check out the video for today. So obviously today's video right now is just a preview to the game that's coming at 4 o'clock Eastern time. That is the Miami Dolphins at San Francisco 49ers. So we're just going to talk a little bit about the matchup, what the Dolphins need to do the best and what they really need to focus on in order to come away with our second win of the season against a very, very good San Francisco 49ers team. Now, I know the record doesn't reflect who they are, but they have had a ridiculous amount of injuries this year. However, there are guys returning to the team this week that's going to make it tough on the Dolphins to have a really solid game. So let's talk about the actives and inactives just real quick. So on San Francisco's side, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to make the start today. So that's going to be a key factor for the 49ers. If they can get him involved, if he can have a clean pocket, we really, really need to get pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo, especially I think he's got an ankle injury. So if we can make him maneuver out of the pocket, make him a little bit uncomfortable, it might affect the way that he's able to throw the ball. So the more that we can get pressure on Jimmy, the better for the Dolphins. I mean, better in general to get pressure on the quarterback, but I think especially so in this situation where their quarterback has been struggling with some ankle injuries. So let's push him out of the pocket. Let's get some pressure on him and make it hard for him to get any clean throws off. So Jimmy Garoppolo is returning to the game. George Kittle is also returning. And I mean, everybody knows that guy is a massive, massive X factor, arguably the best tight end in the league, one of the best. He is an absolute monster. And with the way that our secondary has been playing, he could be really, really dangerous against us this week. So we got to focus on George Kittle. We've got to focus on Jimmy Garoppolo. You've got guys like Deebo Samuel, who's potentially coming back. He's listed as questionable right now, if I'm not mistaken, but he is likely to come back, also suffering an injury. But guys like Brandon Ayuk have really stepped up on that 49ers team and balled out. Brandon Ayuk's been really, really good for the Niners so far. And then on the I almost forgot, Raheem Mostert is also questionable, likely to play as well today. And he is also a very big piece in this offense. So I think we're kind of seeing today a lot of their biggest offensive pieces potentially coming back onto the field this week. So the defense for Miami needs to be absolutely on point because the San Francisco offense, when Jimmy Garoppolo is at quarterback, when they've got their guys healthy, that's a tough offense to match up against no matter who you are. So we need to be on our stuff defensively. We need to be sharp. We need to be ready and present in the moment and ready to go. So with all their offensive weapons coming back, San Francisco is a tough team to play, especially with the travel from Miami all the way to San Francisco. It's a long way. So hopefully our guys are rested and ready to play today. Now, moving defensively for San Francisco, this is where we could take advantage of some opportunities. They have three cornerbacks that are listed out today. And then Ahkello Witherspoon, their number one. Technically, they're number one, I guess. I don't know if Richard Sherman is going to be present. I think that he's out. I'm not a 49ers fan, so I haven't kept up too much with them. But I believe Richard Sherman is out. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. But if he's out, and then Ahkello Witherspoon is also questionable, he is definitely their number two. And then along with that, three other guys who are not going to be active today for the cornerbacks. That's leaving, fourth, fifth, sixth string guys out there defending our receivers and our tight ends. So this could be a really prime opportunity for Mike Gesicki, for Devonta Parker if he plays, because he is questionable as well. Preston Williams especially, get these guys involved, take advantage of a depleted secondary from San Francisco. And, we really need to get that ball rolling offensively, take advantage where we can. Hopefully, Gesicki isn't double teamed as much as he was last week, especially with the weaknesses on all the sides of the defensive backs. So hopefully we can do that. Now, moving on to Miami, the only guys who are listed out today, we have Shaq Lawson, who is listed out. So he is one of the better pass rushers that we have on this team. I would argue and say that Emmanuel Ogbah has probably been the most consistent, getting the most consistent pressure. I think they're tied in sacks, but I think Ogbah's been just giving more of that consistent pressure on a game-to-game basis. But regardless, it is a loss to not have Lawson on the field. We can use all the help that we can get. I think, everyone who's been watching the Dolphins play for the last 4 weeks now, one of the biggest issues that stands out is just the lack of pass rush that we have. So we need all the help that we could ever get in terms of getting after the quarterback. So to lose out on Shaq Lawson's performance today, it stinks, it stings, but it is what it is. We got to move on, and we got to it really has to kind of just become the next man up mentality. So next guy up needs to perform, needs to do his job. And so there are a bunch of questionable guys for the Dolphins, including Devonta Parker with that hamstring / ankle. They were kind of listing a couple of different things, but my opinion, I think it's the hamstring there. So Devonta Parker did come out and say, I am not missing a game this season, barring any kind of ridiculous injury. I am going to be out there and I'm going to be playing. I'm committed to the team. I love that from him. But if it's a pretty bad injury, I'd like to see him sit. But, he's going to know his body, and the coaches are going to know his body much better than me. So if we see him on the field, I'd be excited to see that, obviously. And like I said, potentially taking advantage of that depleted secondary for San Francisco. So let's real quick talk about the matchup. The matchup against San Francisco for Miami is a really, really tough one for a couple of reasons. San Francisco is one of the best defenses in the NFL. Now, they are missing key guys. Obviously, Nick Bosa is out, unfortunately, with that ACL tear, which just absolutely sucked to see because he is a phenomenal young talent in the NFL. You've got Solomon Thomas, who is out also with an ACL. Like I said, Richard Sherman potentially. You've got Akella Witherspoon, and then all the other guys that I had mentioned. So, and I think that D Ford is also out. So, all of the depletion on the defensive side of the ball, even with all of that, San Francisco still ranks as one of the better defenses in the NFL. They play good football. They play well at the line of scrimmage. So that's where us as the Dolphins offensively, we need to try and set the pace. I've been saying this the last couple of videos. We need to set the pace in the beginning of the game, get our run game established, open up the holes, provide the opportunity for our guys to really open up the running game, which then opens up the passing game, which then opens up the entire offense. So the more and more that we can establish that running game consistently, keep it going, involve the other guys. I'd be looking out for Matt Breida today, guys, because he is an ex-49er. They did trade him on draft day. So keep your eyes open for Breida. He might have a nice day, feeling a little chip on his shoulder, wants to stick it to his old team. So I want to see the run game more involved. I want to see us do that consistently. It makes everybody's job offensively so much easier. However, there is one thing, there's a caveat that comes to the running game, and it's pretty simple, and it's something that I hadn't really considered a ton until I had watched a couple of other videos on YouTube and talked to a couple of my friends who I usually, talk football with after the games. The Dolphins coming out with their rushing attack, it could be good. It could look solid. But if that defense is not keeping us ahead, if we're falling behind because of a lack of defensive consistency, we can't just keep rushing the ball. If you're up in a game, you can afford to rush the ball. You can afford to put it on the ground, kill the clock, do what you got to do. If we're falling behind in the game, we can't afford to do that as much because you need to get those points back. You can't afford to waste the clock. So the defense, it's kind of a hand in hand. It's twofold. I would like to see us establish the run, but also in the same vein, our defense needs to be able to keep us ahead, keep us competitive, so that we don't have to completely go away from something that had been successful in the beginning of the game. So I would look for the Dolphins to hopefully establish that running game, get Breida involved because he might have that fire against his old team. And then the defense hold us ahead, keep us competitive so we can continue to do what works offensively for us. So that's what I need offensively from Miami. Fitzpatrick is going to do what he does. I don't expect greatness or horrible play from him. I expect somewhere right in the middle, and that's pretty much what he's going to give you. I expect our receivers to do pretty much what they've been doing, all season so far. It is good. It's a good receiving core. Got guys like Gesicki and Parker having good seasons. I expect that again, especially against the secondary. So the offense is going to do what it does, but I think we have to establish a consistent running game. Our offensive line needs to block properly. We need to open up the holes. We need to get out past the line of scrimmage, get to the linebackers, block them, give our running backs a shot. So that's important offensively. Moving to the defense. Defense is going to be, we're going to need to really, really, really rely on our defense today. Like I said, guys, keep us competitive, keep us in the game. We can't afford to give up those big plays, those big passes. We can't afford Igbenogany to just blow coverages for 30 yards. Can't afford for guys not to help where they need to help and give up big plays. You can't do that against San Francisco. They are too good of a team to do that against offensively because they will capitalize, they will take advantage, they will put points on the board. So defensively, like I said earlier, pass rush is absolutely paramount. That is the number one thing that we need to do today. And I think that if we can consistently get pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo, as I mentioned earlier with that ankle, if we can push him out of the pocket, make him uncomfortable, have a guy in his face as much as possible, it makes everybody's job so much easier, especially with our depleted secondary. Now, I believe Byron Jones is coming back today, which is a huge, huge get for Miami. But regardless of how good you are as a cornerback, you could throw Deion Sanders in at cornerback for Miami. If he's having to cover a guy for 10, 12 seconds, no cornerback's going to be able to cover a receiver for that amount of time. So we need to get pass rush in so that our guys they don't have to hold receivers to just ridiculous amount of time being covered. So the more and more we can get pressure consistently on the quarterback, especially Garoppolo today, like I said with that injury, the better for us. Now, number two, I think I'm not going to address the secondary as much today because we are having Jones potentially coming back. I believe he is coming back. And like I said, correct me in the comment section below if he is not coming back. But I'm not going to address the secondary as much because I've done that a lot in the last video. So the number one thing, aside from pass rush, that I think the Dolphins need to do defensively, absolutely need to do defensively, is really, really work to disrupt the running game. San Francisco, if you look at their stats, one of the best rushing teams in the NFL when Raheem Mostert is in the game. I believe they average like 180 yards per game, somewhere right around there. That's what the stats are when Raheem Mostert is in, and when he is out, they still average about 103, 104. So that's a really good rushing team. They've got a lot of options. They can plug any guy in. They have a great offensive line. So the Dolphins need to throw a lot of big guys in the middle. They need to help. Their linebackers need to help kind of contain that edge because they've got a lot of quick, shifty, speedy guys. The San Francisco 49ers run a lot of outside zone. So like to push their guys out to the edges and let them do their thing. So we need to do a good job at trying to slow down the rushing attack and try to make this offense one-dimensional. And then after that, try to take away the deeper end of the field. Now, all of that is much easier said than done, especially against a team like San Francisco. And right now, I think San Francisco is a better team. I think that our offense should be solid against their defense at the moment. But I've got hesitancy about the defense, and I think that's reasonable. I think that we haven't shown a lot defensively in the last 4 weeks, the beginning of the season so far. So if our defense can come along, if our defense can keep us in the game, if they can make stops, we got to get stops. If we can do that, this will be a very competitive game. But it's really, really dependent on what the defense can do, how they can slow down Jimmy Garoppolo, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. There's a lot of weapons for them. George Kittle, Raheem Mostert. There's so many guys that they have offensively that can produce. So the more that we can disrupt it, the more that we can get guys in the face of Jimmy Garoppolo, and the more that we can eat up the middle of that offensive line and kind of, stop or at least sort of slow down their rushing attack, the better for the Dolphins altogether. The only other thing that I do want to touch on is Miami has to capitalize, and this is going offensively now, and this will be the last point that I make. I don't want to run too long here. Miami has to capitalize on their opportunities, whether it's in the red zone, whether we are, attacking cornerbacks that are not as experienced. We have to capitalize on the opportunities ahead of us as an offense. We saw last week 5 field goals kicked by Jason Sanders. If those 5 field goals were touchdowns, we win that game. We win that game 35-31 if those are all touchdowns. we need to take advantage. If we're in the red zone, we need to come away with a touchdown. If we're within goal line, we got to come away with a touchdown. If there is a clear blown coverage or there's an opportunity to take advantage to get a touchdown, we need to execute and make it happen. That's the only way that you are going to consistently win in the NFL, is if you take advantage of the opportunities to score touchdowns. We can't go through this game as well with Jason Sanders kicking 5 field goals. That is not going to work for us. We will not win this game if that's what happens. So we need to take advantage. We saw it last week. It didn't work. San Francisco is a very good team. Regardless of what their record is, they're a solid team, and we're traveling to them. So they've got advantage over us there. So we've got a tough schedule. We've got a lot of good teams that we play. And we've gotten the experience kind of in the beginning of all of these teams that are very good that we've been playing. So I think that bodes well for Miami. We've seen a lot of good teams so far. So hopefully we've done a little bit of growing over the last week to get ready for San Francisco. With all that said, guys, I don't want to be pessimistic. I really hate predicting losses for Miami because this is my favorite team. I've always been a Dolphins fan, and I don't want to predict a loss for Miami. But I think at the end of the day, traveling to San Francisco, them getting their pieces back, this is a very good team. I would not underrate or underappreciate how good they actually are. There is a reason why they were in the Super Bowl last year, guys. They're a good team. As my camera is currently falling down, I'm sorry about that. I'm going to readjust here. But San Francisco's a good team, guys. They're a tough one to play. Traveling to San Francisco with their pieces back, with their offensive weapons back. I'm going to pick this up, actually, because it's driving me crazy. Sorry about that. Guys, I just think this is going to be a tough game. I think our defense needs to prove that they can play. The defense needs to prove that we can get a pass rush, that we can cover, that we can stop the run. And I think it's a pretty long list of things that we need to do better in order to come away with this win. I'm hoping that we do, guys. But at the end of the day, I think my prediction is going to be a win for San Francisco. I just think the Miami Dolphins still have a lot of things to grow on. Right now, we're a little bit raw. We've got potential, a lot of young guys, a lot of potential. But at this point in time, I just think San Francisco is a more seasoned veteran team. They've been to the Super Bowl now, and I just think that they've got more of an established sense of who they are and what they're doing. So at this moment in time, guys, I'm thinking that San Francisco is probably going to win this game. My prediction is probably somewhere right around 27-21. I think Miami keeps it competitive, but I think that's about what we're going to be looking at. So maybe 28-21, actually. Yeah, I'll do 28-21. So I think we'll be a touchdown short. I think it'll be a competitive game. I think it'll be relatively close. We just need to execute. And regardless of whether we come away with a win or not, as long as we're executing, as long as we're trying and we're making the improvements where it's necessary, as long as we're growing in the right direction, then that's what needs to happen. And I won't be completely dumbfounded or upset if we lose this game. Now, I'm tired of losing, and I want to win, and it's time for a culture change. It's time for us to actually start winning games. But if you can see the consistent progress, that's also very important. So, guys, for now, I'm thinking it's a loss for Miami. I'm thinking we're going to drop to 1-4. As much as I don't want to see that happen, I just think it's a little bit more of a realistic scenario. So thank you for watching, guys. I know this was longer. I was intending for it to be short, but you know, it's fun to talk about the Dolphins and the matchups and all that stuff. So I will keep you posted. Please, if you guys have not already done so, definitely subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification so that you can get updates whenever we are posting videos here. And I will definitely have a video out for you guys tonight recapping the game against San Francisco. So guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Sunday. I'll see you in just a few hours. And as always, fins up.